You were born in the 9th century in Norway. Congratulations. Your mother almost died giving birth, and the midwife left just as you started crying. And you're not just crying, you're screaming and throwing out tiny fists, as if you've already smelled blood. Your mother, she doesn't rock you to sleep. She shudders because even as a baby, something is wrong with you. Your dad, oh, he's been sent to Frankie's assessment because being a Viking and not sailing off on raids every autumn is like skipping a leg workout. Shameful. Fast forward, you're 5. Instead of finger painting or whatever kids do these days, you're helping your mom chop wood. For fun, you hit trees with your head and bite goats. By the age of 8, you start to wonder why no one talks about your dad. Then you remember the time your mother cried for weeks. You were too young to understand. Now you understand. He's gone. You're sad, but you're not crying. You're a Viking, baby. Crying isn't an acceptable emotion. You get older and you start to notice something rather alarming. When you are angry, it is not just anger, it is murderous anger. You tore chickens apart with your teeth, stabbed an axe into your neighbor's leg simply because he looked strangely at your wooden sword. He barely survived. And frankly, this guy was lucky compared to what you did to the others. Now your mom's full-time job is trying to keep you from becoming a one-armed apocalypse. You want to stop. You do. But something deep inside you just really enjoys seeing people get life-threatening injuries from anyone who breathes incorrectly. Your days are filled with tasks, chopping wood, hauling water, pretending you're not a violent time bomb. But the nights, yes, they are terrible. You don't sleep. You have nightmares, terrible visions. The best night's sleep you've ever had? 1 hour. And it was probably a coincidence. Your mom finally drags you to the local shaman. He looks into your soul for a while, then simply says, "Come back when you see what's bothering you." Thanks, man. That was very helpful. The problem is that you never remember your dreams. Until this morning, for the first time in your life, you wake up feeling rested. No screams, no visions, and this time you remember everything. So you rush back to the shaman like it's a Viking Christmas. He listens, nods slowly, then drops this bombshell. Odin, the great Norse god, speaks to you. Wait, what? Yes, the Allfather himself is slipping into your dreams and he doesn't need small talk. He wants to turn you into a berserker, a monster warrior fueled by rage, blessed by the god of war himself. Cool, huh? Except that it also means you're basically cursed. Everyone you know will be afraid of you. You won't be able to live a normal life. Definitely no more goat petting. And your mother? Yes, you'll have to stay away from her too, otherwise you might lose your temper and accidentally kill her. Your life is no longer yours. It belongs to Odin now, and he doesn't exactly offer health insurance benefits. By the age of 16, you're larger than most adult men and about 6 mental breakdowns away from becoming a full-fledged denizen of the forest. The village is fed up, so they send you to live with the warriors, which is really just a Viking euphemism for, "Please take this wild child away before it eats another kid." You are thrown into a group of senior berserkers. These guys are scary. They don't smile, they don't talk. They hit like falling trees. So yeah, maybe don't mess with them if you want to keep your spine intact. You begin to learn the ways of the axe. Simple enough. You swing it. You're chopping something. You look cool. But then sparring starts, and suddenly nothing looks cool. You are thrown into a ring with 2 fully grown berserkers. You throw punches. They shrug. You block, your bones vibrate. Sometimes you're even thrown into battle unarmed. Just you and your bare fists against a guy with an axe and zero pity. As the months go by, you start to look like a rag doll. Bruises, cuts, scares, and places you didn't even know you had. But hey, you know how to swing an axe. Then one night you're sitting by the fire, wiping blood off your axe. Probably not yours. One of the senior berserkers is limping. Do you like war, child? You nod, obviously. By the age of 16, you're an absolute powerhouse. But physical training isn't enough. Not when you're supposed to be Odin's personal killing machine. So now comes the spiritual part. You are shown how to induce Berserk Gang, a terrifying combat state where pain means nothing. Fear does not exist. And you fight as if possessed by a god. Because, well, you're kind of possessed. How do you get into this magical killing state? Mushrooms. Not the pizza kind, but the hallucinogenic kind. You hate these mushrooms. Every time you take them, Odin appears in your brain, speaking some ancient divine gibberish that you barely understand. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is what happens after. The last time you took mushrooms, you passed out and woke up deep in the forest holding a human hand that wasn't your own. Later, the trainers informed you that it belonged to an unlucky Viking who had the misfortune of meeting you in the middle of the berserker gang. So yes, your spiritual training is going great. After 2 years of spiritual training and more mushrooms than a troll salad, you're officially ready. You are called to the king's personal guard. A great honor, a short term of service, because before the end of the year your king announces a large-scale raid on England. Time for your first international killing tour. So now you're on a ship, at sea for the first time. You spend most of that time vomiting and threatening to spit your skeleton into the ocean. Every morning begins with breakfast. Every afternoon ends with you practically giving that breakfast to the fish. Other Vikings, especially the younger ones, look at you and the other berserkers like celebrities. The older Vikings are the complete opposite. They keep their distance. They've seen what happens when berserkers are in the mood, and they'd very much like to keep their heads to themselves. Once you reach the shore, the first few forays are a cakewalk. Tiny coastal villages, almost no fighters. You swing, they fall, you rob their goats, easy. But then things get serious. The King of York gathers his army. Suddenly, you're not just robbing sheep farms anymore, you're in full-scale war. As a berserker, you have two options. The first is to remain by your king's side as a bodyguard. Second, rush to the front rows and turn into a one-armed circular saw. You're a newbie, so guess which one you're getting. You are told to take a squad of berserkers and rush to the front lines. That is the fastest way to die, but you are not afraid. No, you're delighted. Before the battle, you perform a ritual. You and others begin chanting, cutting yourselves, and chewing mushrooms that turn your brain into lightning and chaos. The other Vikings watch from a safe distance, of course, because no one wants to get caught in the blast zone. Then you are engulfed by the berserker gang. You and your squad rush towards the English soldiers like rabid wolves wearing fur and rage. The rest of the Viking army is still running behind, but you are already in the center of the chaos, breaking through shields as if they were made of wet bark. And then nothing. You lose consciousness. When you wake up, it's quiet. You're lying in some corner of the battlefield covered in blood, which is definitely not all yours. There are corpses all around you. Lots of them. These aren't adult warriors. These are children, barely older than you were when you began your training. You sit, surrounded by the aftermath of your own rage, and something sharp twists in your chest. Bitterness, guilt, maybe even doubt. Is this really what Odin wanted? To slaughter frightened boys who were simply defending their homes? For the first time, you're not so sure. You've survived your first real battle. Congratulations, huh? No, you don't feel like celebrating. You return to Norway and go back to your old job, guarding the king, as if nothing had happened. The Vikings are starting to whisper about you. They say it's crazy how you can change your tune like that. A bloodthirsty beast on the battlefield, a stoic ghost at the throne. But anyone who saw you in York, yeah, they won't come closer than 5 feet to you. You're essentially a walking trauma in a fur cape. And then, against all odds, you live to be 30. For a berserker, this is ancient history, like the ancient history of a nursing home. Most of your kind don't live past 25, not because they fight badly, but because no one wants to deal with them after the blood dries. Too unstable, too cruel, too unpredictable. But you held on. You have scars, a limp, and a brain that never rests. Your beard is turning gray. Your joints creak like old wood. Your left arm barely works, thanks to the time you dislocated it while pulling a man off a horse with one hand. You are no longer the newbie brandishing weapons at the front lines. You now command the berserkers, the king's chief brute. You go on raid after raid across the sea. More gold, more shouts in foreign languages. When your king dies, his son takes the throne and makes you head of the royal guard. The new king is not as smart as his father, but he is a real Viking. Loves to raid, loves to fight, loves to war, which means you are constantly busy. More fighting, more killing, more diving into the berserker gang. It's normal at first. You can still control it. You can still choose when to get angry. But then something changes. You lose control. You no longer decide when the berserker gang happens. It decides for you. Sometimes it comes in battle. Sometimes it comes while you're eating. Even your fellow berserkers fear you. You know it's bad when other people taking mushrooms keep their distance. And remember those terrifying visions as a child? Yes, they're back. Nightmares, shadowy figures, all that psychic mayhem. Your solution: more mushrooms. It's an old strategy, but it only makes things worse. Your brain is burned out, your spirit is broken. Years of killing have finally caught up with you, and suddenly you're no longer a warrior. You are a walking menace. The king dismisses you not because you are weak, but because you are too dangerous. You turn to shamans, desperately seeking answers. You beg for rituals, visions, clarity, anything. Nothing works. In the end, you do the only thing that makes sense. You disappear into the wilderness alone. You exile yourself to avoid killing some farmer over a spilled drink. And every night the dreams return. Always the same. You kill people, but you don't see their faces. Just bodies, screams, blood. It's like your soul is stuck on repeat. You hate it. You beg Odin to end your suffering and take back the rage he gave you. Nothing happens. Years pass. One says nothing. Either he's ignoring you or he's done with you. This morning you walked into town, looked every Viking in the eye, and challenged them. Come and kill me. But no one steps forward. Not a single one. Because even in your madness, even with your gray beard and lame leg, they still remember you. The nightmare of York, the man who tore enemies apart like paper. Now you're alone again, looking at that thick rope, thinking, if Odin won't take your soul, maybe it's time to deliver it to him yourself. What kind of Viking would you be? Share your stories in the comments. We'd love to read them. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to see more stories about your past.